My wife booted me out after her best friend's betrayal, saying I hit on her. 5 months later, the truth surfaced, and so I filed the divorce papers. Imagine waking up one day to find your entire life detonated, not by an accident, but by a carefully crafted lie from someone you thought was a friend. What if that lie cost you everything: your home, your marriage, your reputation? This isn't just a story, it's how I lost everything, and then had to fight like hell to build it back, piece by agonizing piece. My life, just a few months prior, was a well-oiled machine. I'm 34, and my auto restoration shop in Mesa, Arizona, was thriving. I was knee-deep in a client's '69 Mustang project, covered in grease, but feeling completely in control. I thought I had it all figured out, a solid foundation built over years. I met Chloe 7 years ago at a car show. She wasn't really into classic cars, but she stopped to talk anyway, and I fell hard. We dated for 2 years, got married in a small, intimate ceremony at a vineyard in Sedona, and bought a house in a quiet neighborhood, dreaming of a family. The first 3 years of our marriage were rock solid. We were happy, stable, building something truly real. Then Harper moved back to Arizona. Harper was Chloe's college best friend, who'd been living in Ohio. When she relocated back home about 2 years into our marriage, Chloe was absolutely thrilled. I tried my best to be supportive, because Chloe always talked about how close they used to be, how Harper was like a sister to her, and I just wanted my wife to be happy. But things went sideways, fast. Harper started coming over constantly, 3 or 4 times a week. I'd come home from the shop to find her sprawled on my couch, drinking wine with Chloe, like she lived there. At first, I made an effort to be friendly, but I noticed unsettling things almost immediately. Harper would stare at me with this cold, analyzing look. Not flirtatious, no, just intense and unsettling. And whenever Chloe would kiss me or even just touch my arm in front of her, Harper's expression would just darken for a split second. She started making these subtle comments, these little digs disguised as jokes. Stuff like, "Oh, it must be so nice for Chloe to have someone to take care of her," always implying I was some kind of burden, or that Chloe was somehow settling. She'd bring up stories about Chloe's ex-boyfriends from college, always emphasizing how fun and spontaneous they were compared to, boring married life. I mentioned it to Chloe once, super casual, just said Harper seemed a bit possessive. And Chloe shut me down, hard. She told me Harper was just protective, and I was being paranoid. I dropped it. I didn't want to fight about it. But Harper's behavior just escalated. She started calling Chloe multiple times every single day, showing up unannounced at our house, getting visibly upset if Chloe made plans without including her. I watched my wife get completely consumed by this friendship. I felt like I was losing her to someone who clearly had some kind of agenda. Harper would text Chloe at midnight. She'd show up on Sunday mornings without even a call. She'd invite herself to our date nights. Chloe even started canceling plans with me to hang out with Harper. And when I brought it up, she accused me of being controlling, of being jealous of her friendship. I wasn't jealous. I was concerned. Because Harper looked at Chloe the way someone looks at a person they're in love with. And I was starting to realize that's exactly what was happening. But every single time I tried to point it out, Chloe defended Harper and turned it back on me, saying I was insecure or that I just didn't understand female friendships. We'd installed a Ring doorbell a few months earlier, and I started noticing from the notifications just how often Harper was showing up, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day when I wasn't even home. Chloe and I were also part of a Discord gaming group with some friends, and Harper had joined that, too. She was literally in every part of our lives now. Then came that Tuesday night. The one that destroyed everything. I'd been at the shop late, finally wrapping up that '69 Mustang. I came home around 9, utterly exhausted, ready to collapse. Chloe was sitting at the kitchen table, and the second I walked in, I knew something was catastrophically wrong. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen and red from crying, and she looked at me with pure, unadulterated disgust. I asked what was wrong, genuinely confused and concerned, and she stood up, her hands shaking with rage. She told me that Harper had revealed what I did. I had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. Then she dropped the bomb that would end my marriage. She told me that Harper claimed I had tried to make a move on her, that I had cornered her in the hallway last week when Chloe was in the bathroom. That I had told her I was attracted to her, touched her arm, and asked if she ever thought about us together. The accusation hit me like a freight train. I had never, not once, not even remotely said or done anything like that to Harper. I had actively avoided being alone with her, specifically because her behavior made me so uncomfortable. I told Chloe it was a complete, outright lie. I begged her to think logically, to see how insane the accusation was. I reminded her that I had expressed concerns about Harper's possessive behavior months ago, but she wasn't listening to a single word I said. Chloe screamed at me, asking why Harper would lie. "She's my best friend. She has no reason to make this up," she yelled, claiming I had always been weird around her. I tried everything. I reminded her of every time I'd tried to avoid Harper, every conversation where I'd expressed discomfort, every red flag I had pointed out that she had dismissed. Nothing worked. Chloe's mind was made up. And in that moment, I realized Harper had completely poisoned her against me. Chloe told me to pack a bag and get out of the house. I refused at first because it was my house, too. I'd paid the down payment. But she threatened to call the police and tell them I made her feel unsafe. So, I packed some clothes, grabbed my wallet and phone, and walked out of my own home. I sat in my truck in the driveway for 20 minutes, staring at the house I had worked so hard to buy, watching the lights go off one by one, and the reality of what just happened started sinking in. My wife had believed a lie from her best friend over 7 years of marriage and partnership. She had chosen Harper over me without even questioning the story or asking for my side. And the worst part was, I knew exactly what Harper was doing. She wanted Chloe for herself. She had been slowly isolating her from me for months. And this was the final, brutal move to push me out completely. I drove to my buddy Troy's apartment and crashed on his couch that night. I didn't sleep at all. I kept replaying the conversation, trying to figure out where I went wrong, how I could have prevented this, what I could have said differently. But the truth was, there was nothing I could have done. Harper had planned this. She had fabricated a story designed to destroy my marriage, and Chloe had believed her without hesitation. My life had collapsed in less than 24 hours, and I had no idea how I was going to prove my innocence or get my wife back. All I knew was that Harper had won, and I was completely powerless to stop it. I spent the first week at Troy's apartment in complete shock. Sleeping maybe 2 hours a night, barely eating, just replaying everything in my head, trying to make sense of how my life had fallen apart so fast. Troy was a good friend. He let me crash without asking too many questions at first. But eventually, I told him everything, and he was the only person who believed me from the start. The reason Chloe believed Harper so easily was something I didn't fully understand until later. But looking back, I could see how Harper had been planting seeds for months. She had been making comments to Chloe about how I looked at other women, how I seemed distant, how marriage changes men and makes them look for excitement elsewhere. Chloe later told me that Harper had been sharing articles about infidelity and emotional affairs, casually bringing up stories about friends whose husbands had cheated, all while pretending to be concerned about Chloe's happiness. Harper had been grooming Chloe to distrust me long before she made that monstrous accusation. So, when she finally dropped the bomb, Chloe's mind was already primed to believe it. The manipulation had been so gradual and subtle that Chloe didn't even realize it was happening. Chloe tried to contact me exactly once, 3 days after she kicked me out. She sent a single text message asking if I had anything to say for myself, if I wanted to come clean and apologize. I responded immediately, telling her again that I had done nothing wrong, that Harper was lying, and that I needed her to actually listen to me and think critically about the situation. She replied saying she had thought about it and that Harper had no reason to lie while I had every reason to deny it, and that she needed space and didn't want me contacting her anymore. That was it. That was the only attempt at communication. And after that, she completely cut me off. She blocked my number, blocked me on all social media, and refused to respond to any messages I sent through mutual friends. It was like 7 years of marriage meant absolutely nothing. Like I was a stranger she wanted erased from her life. Meanwhile, Harper had essentially moved into my house. I heard from a neighbor that her car was there every single day, that she was staying overnight constantly, and that she and Chloe were inseparable. The neighbor actually thought Harper was Chloe's sister who had moved in to help her through the separation. But I knew exactly what was happening. Harper had gotten exactly what she wanted. She had pushed me out and now had Chloe all to herself. I was living out of a duffel bag on Troy's couch, unable to go back to my own home, unable to talk to my own wife, and watching my entire life get stolen by someone who had orchestrated this whole nightmare. I knew I needed to prove my innocence somehow. So, I started gathering evidence. I went through every single message, email, and interaction I had ever had with Harper, which wasn't much because I had deliberately kept my distance from her. I pulled up our Discord chat history from that gaming group we were all in, and there was nothing there. Completely professional and minimal. I checked my phone records, and there were 0 calls or texts between me and Harper outside of group messages. I requested the video footage from our Ring doorbell and reviewed every single time Harper had been at our house. And you could see, clear as day, that I avoided her, that I would leave rooms when she entered, that I never engaged with her one-on-one. I gathered bank statements showing I had never taken her out, never bought her anything, never had any suspicious purchases that would indicate an affair or even an interest in one. I compiled everything into a folder and took it to a lawyer. The lawyer's name was Vincent, and he was recommended by Troy's brother, who had gone through a messy divorce a few years back. Vincent looked through everything I brought him and told me straight up that I had a solid case, that the evidence clearly showed no inappropriate relationship with Harper. But he also said it might not matter in the divorce proceedings because Arizona is a no-fault state. He explained that even if I could prove Chloe's accusations were false, the marriage was still over if she wanted it to be, and fighting it would just cost me more money and time. Vincent advised me to file for divorce myself to get ahead of it, control the narrative, and to document everything in case Harper tried to escalate her lies further. So that's what I did. 2 weeks in, I filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, and had the papers served to Chloe at the house. The entire time this was happening, Chloe's family and all our mutual friends were being told that I had made advances toward Harper and that I was a creep who had betrayed my wife's trust. Chloe's mom called me once to tell me I was disgusting and that she had always known there was something off about me. Chloe's sister posted vague things on social media about men who disrespect their wives and how women should always believe other women. Our friend group completely froze me out. Nobody reached out. Nobody asked for my side of the story. They just accepted Harper's version as fact because she was crying to everyone about how uncomfortable I had made her and how brave she was for finally telling Chloe the truth. I lost my wife, my home, my reputation, and my entire social circle in a matter of days. All because of one calculated lie. I threw myself into work because it was the only thing I had left. I was at the shop 12 to 14 hours a day, taking on extra projects, staying late to avoid going back to Troy's couch, and just trying to keep my mind occupied so I wouldn't spiral into complete depression. My employees noticed something was wrong, but I didn't tell them the details. I just said I was going through a separation and left it at that. The only thing that kept me sane was knowing that I had the truth on my side. That eventually, somehow, this would come out. But as weeks turned into months, I started losing hope that it ever would. Then, 10 weeks after Chloe kicked me out, I got a phone call that changed everything. It was Chloe's mom, the same woman who had called me disgusting and cut me off completely. And her voice was shaking when she spoke. She told me she needed to tell me something. Something had happened. I needed to know the truth. My heart was pounding because I had no idea what was coming. And then she told me that Harper had confessed everything. Apparently, Harper had gotten wasted at Chloe's place 2 nights before. Really, really drunk. The kind of drunk where people lose their filter and their secrets come pouring out. Chloe's mom had stopped by to drop off some groceries and found Harper sobbing in the kitchen. And in her drunken state, Harper started talking, started admitting things she had kept buried. She told Chloe's mom she had always been in love with Chloe, that she had moved back to Arizona specifically to be close to her, and that she couldn't stand watching Chloe be married to me. She admitted she had made up the entire story about me making a move on her, that she had even created fake screenshots of text messages to show Chloe as proof, and that her whole goal was to destroy the marriage so Chloe would be hers. Chloe's mom said she immediately told Chloe everything, and Chloe had confronted Harper the next morning when she was sober. Harper tried to backtrack at first, tried to say she was just drunk and talking nonsense, but eventually she broke down and admitted it was all true. She confessed she had been manipulating Chloe for months, planting doubts about me, isolating her from me emotionally, and then finally fabricating the accusation that would push me out for good. Chloe's mom was crying on the phone, apologizing to me, saying she should have questioned the story more, that she should have given me a chance to defend myself. She told me Chloe knew the truth now and that she was devastated. But I didn't feel any satisfaction hearing it. I just felt empty. Because 10 weeks of hell couldn't be undone by an apology, and the damage that had been done to my life was irreversible. Chloe's mom said Chloe wanted to talk to me, that she wanted to explain and apologize, but I told her I wasn't ready, that I needed time to process everything. I hung up the phone and sat in my truck outside the shop. And for the first time in 10 weeks, I cried. Not because I was relieved, but because I realized that even though the truth had come out, it was already too late to save anything. Vincent called me the day after Chloe's mom reached out and told me that Chloe had contacted him directly, asking if we could meet to talk about everything. Vincent advised me to agree to the meeting, but to keep it formal, to have him present, and to not let emotions dictate any decisions I made. He scheduled it for the following Saturday at the house, which felt appropriate since that's where everything had fallen apart. I drove there with Vincent, and walking up to my own front door felt surreal. Like I was entering a place that used to be mine, but now belonged to a stranger. Chloe answered, and she looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were swollen and red, and she could barely look at me. Vincent and I walked in and sat down in the living room. And that's when I noticed Harper was there, too, sitting on the couch like she had every right to be part of this conversation. Vincent immediately told Harper she needed to leave, that this was a private meeting between me and Chloe, and that her presence was completely inappropriate. Harper stood up reluctantly, gathering her bag, and as she walked past me toward the door, she leaned in close and whispered something I'll never forget. She told me I had ruined everything. And the way she said it, with so much venom and genuine belief that I was somehow the villain in all this, made me realize just how delusional and dangerous she actually was. But what she didn't realize was that Chloe heard her. Chloe was standing right there and heard Harper blame me for ruining the life that Harper herself had destroyed with her lies. Something clicked in Chloe's mind in that moment. You could see it on her face, like the last piece of the puzzle finally fell into place, and she understood the full scope of what Harper had done. Chloe turned on Harper right there in the hallway and told her to get out and never contact her again. Harper's face went from smug to panicked in seconds. And she started backtracking, saying she didn't mean it like that, trying to grab Chloe's hand and explain. But Chloe pulled away and told her she was done, that she finally saw Harper for who she really was, and that she never wanted to see her again. Harper completely broke down. She started crying hysterically, admitting through sobs that she had loved Chloe since college, that she had wanted her for years, that she thought if she could just get me out of the picture, then Chloe would finally see they were meant to be together. She was saying all of this out loud, confessing everything, and it was honestly disturbing to watch someone unravel like that. Vincent physically escorted Harper to the door and told her to leave or he would call the police. And she finally left, still sobbing, getting into her car and driving away. The house was silent after that. Just me, Chloe, and Vincent sitting in the living room that used to be ours. Chloe tried to talk. She tried to apologize. She told me she knew she had made a terrible mistake, that she should have believed me, that she should have seen through Harper's manipulation. She was crying, and her hands were shaking, and she kept saying she was sorry over and over. But I felt nothing. I sat there listening to her apologies and explanations, and all I could think about was how easily she had thrown away 7 years. How quickly she had believed the worst about me, how she had chosen Harper over me without a second thought. Vincent pulled out the divorce papers from his briefcase and set them on the coffee table in front of us. Chloe looked at them like they were a death sentence, and she begged me not to do this. She asked me to give her a chance to make it right, to prove that she still loved me and that we could rebuild what we had. But I was done. I picked up the pen and signed the papers right there on the coffee table without saying a word. Chloe completely fell apart. She dropped to her knees in front of me, begging me to reconsider, telling me she would do anything, that she would cut off everyone who had doubted me, that she would spend the rest of her life making it up to me. I looked at her and told her the only thing I had left to say. I told her she had believed everyone except me. The person who had stood by her for 7 years. The person who had built a life with her. And that I would never forgive her for that. I told her trust was the foundation of everything, and she had destroyed it beyond repair. Not Harper, but her, by choosing to believe a lie over the truth. Vincent and I stood up. He collected the signed papers, and we walked out of that house for the last time. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. I used that time to rebuild everything Harper and Chloe had destroyed. I expanded my shop, bought the unit next door, and turned it into additional workspace, hired 2 more employees, and started taking on higher-end restoration projects that brought in serious money. I finished the Challenger I had been working on, and it became the centerpiece of my personal collection. I started going to car shows again, networking, rebuilding my reputation in the local car community, and slowly, my life started to feel like mine again. I took some time to actually process what had happened. Started seeing a therapist to work through the betrayal and anger, and focused on rebuilding myself before jumping into anything new. I needed to learn to trust again, to understand why I had missed so many red flags, and to make sure I was whole before bringing someone else into my life. It took about 6 months, but eventually I started feeling like myself again, like the person I was before all this happened. That's when I met Vanessa at a car show where I was displaying the Challenger. She worked in real estate, and she was everything Chloe wasn't: independent, secure, and drama-free. We took things slow, but it felt right in a way my marriage never had. She knew my story. I was upfront about everything from the start, and she never made me feel like I had to prove myself or earn her trust. It was just there, naturally. Meanwhile, Chloe lost everything. Our mutual friends found out the truth about what Harper had done, and most of them cut her off for not believing me and for allowing Harper to manipulate her so completely. Her family was embarrassed and disappointed in her judgment. She ended up selling the house because she couldn't afford it on her own and moved into a small apartment across town. I heard through the grapevine she was seeing a therapist, trying to process everything that had happened. Harper fled back to Ohio with her life in ruins. Her reputation destroyed. No friends, no Chloe, nothing left of the fantasy she had tried to build. As for me, I didn't lose anything in the end. I grew. I learned to trust my instincts. I learned that red flags exist for a reason. And I learned that some people will destroy your life just to feel like they've won something. I rebuilt better, stronger, smarter, and I never ignored a red flag again. This journey taught me more about betrayal and resilience than I ever thought possible. If you've ever faced a situation where someone tried to dismantle your life with lies, or if you've had to rebuild from scratch, I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Do you think I did the right thing? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please consider giving it a like and subscribing for more honest, real-life experiences.